At various times and in different corners of the world, magnetic generator systems have repeatedly emerged, making massive waves and shaking up the entire industry. However, the history of their implementation always hit the exact same wall. Either the inventors completely lacked commercial experience, or they were paralyzed by excessive anxieties over protecting their know-how. Yet they have already left a definitive mark on engineering history. In 2010, as they say in the industry, a patent emerged in the prior art where the ability to instantly redirect magnetic force was utilized in window designs, protecting against sudden internal pressure spikes. The mountings, in which magnets were held tightly against iron cores fixed to the support frame, would instantly release the window structure the moment an electrical pulse in the core's coil induced a reverse magnetic polarization. A similar principle was utilized in the pulsed motor generator design by New Zealand engineer Robert Adams, who fought for the implementation of his invention since 1967. The driving force of his design relies on the attraction of a permanent magnet fixed to the rotor toward a ferromagnetic core on the stator. While there is no current in the coil, the magnet is drawn to the core resistance-free. But at the exact point of maximum alignment, an electrical pulse surges through the coil, creating a matching polarity. Just like in the magnetic lock described earlier, this instantly forces the magnet to repel, sustaining the rotor's rotation. Late in life, lacking official recognition, Adams published his technology in Nexus magazine in 1992, placing a working device into the public domain. The LUTEC 1000 design by Australian engineers John Christie and Louw shared a similar path. The project secured funding, and in 2001, a working 24-kilowatt prototype was featured on Sky News Australia. The developers planned to launch mass production within a single year, but unfortunately, the commercial rollout never happened. The story culminated 20 years later, in 2021, when the technical documentation was officially released into the public domain with a clear statement: anyone can now build it, unconditionally. The authors ultimately arrived at the open-source philosophy themselves, but it cost them 2 decades and the energy to see it through. Does this imply a dark curse haunting these developments, or a shadow conspiracy? Not at all. Let's step back for a moment and look at the equally ambitious world of hypercars. Countless brilliant engineers, striving to immortalize their genius in masterpieces of art and machinery, failed to scale, constantly hovering on the brink of bankruptcy. Their creations remained rare museum pieces for elite collections. This is a manifestation of the Law of Information Inductance. When introducing solutions that trigger massive shifts in established systems, we observe, much like spikes on an oscilloscope, a sequence of attempts to reach new technical horizons. Some are simply unready for structural changes and get absorbed by ruthless inductive drag. But let us return to the highly publicized developments in permanent magnet generation. The story of Andrey Slabodyan's design is frequently debated, sparking fierce arguments between fuel-free generation enthusiasts and conservatives, accusing the inventor of charlatanism. However, the internet is flooded with demonstrations. From small bench setups where the author shows the absence of hidden power sources, to large-scale generator systems in a high-tech, futuristic design, which by their very look prove that massive resources have been invested by a company that evaluated the technology and is now fully preparing for mass production. And yet, the vague terms in the device's description, like bifilar coils and secret software hiding the operational logic, simply confuse anyone trying to catch a grain of truth in the claimed technology. The result? Canceled supply contracts and shattered plans for scaling from prototypes to a mass-market product. At this point, it is time to share how the Vis Magnetica project was born. In 2021, a representative of a German company looking to purchase generators for a factory in Europe approached us with a request to analyze the viability of a South Korean company's product. Strictly speaking, that very moment marked the beginning of our journey, initially filled with deep skepticism, into the long voyage into the mysterious world of fuel-free generators. Analyzing and modeling these structures reveals a crucial insight. Andrey Slabodyan's technology is actually a highly efficient, refined evolution of Robert Adams' design. In this setup, the permanent magnets of the rotor are attracted to the core of an electromagnetic coil. To begin, let's isolate a single power sector, consisting of a permanent magnet on the rotating rotor and a single winding on the stationary stator. We can break their interaction down into two distinct stages. Stage A. The magnet is attracted to the coil's core, increasing the magnetic flux inside. This surge in flux induces an electromotive force, EMF, within the winding. If the coil were short-circuited at this exact moment, a current would flow, turning the core into a magnet of opposing polarity. This would generate a counterforce, directly resisting the approach of the rotor magnet. However, our goal is to let the rotor magnet pass into alignment with the coil's core completely unobstructed, and only then receive a magnetic kick that accelerates the rotor forward. To achieve this, we introduce an LC current phase shifter into the coil's external circuit, consisting of a series-connected choke and capacitor. Their precise role is to delay the phase of the current inside the coil until the exact moment the magnet aligns with the core. An EMF is induced within the coil, but choke L holds back the current from flowing through the circuit. The current rises at the very beginning of stage B, exactly when the magnet and the core reach maximum alignment. The coil's core becomes magnetized with a polarity opposite to the permanent magnet, propelling the rotor forward. Meanwhile, choke L maintains the current despite the reversal of the EMF inside the coil. And this is the very essence of how the current phase shifter works. To eliminate any possibility of a reverse current in the coil, which could cause the rotor to decelerate, we add diode D to the phase shifter circuit. The charge of capacitor C can now be converted into useful electrical power by routing it further down the circuit, for instance, into a pulse transformer via a MOSFET. To cycle the next inverted polarity magnet, a reverse-connected second winding is used. In another video, we kicked off a series breaking down the technology of another landmark startup, MotoFlux. Analyzing their developments helped us identify the key elements required to build a truly reliable generating system. Both technologies harmoniously complement each other in our generator, in many ways even simplifying the initial schematics. We are not the first to find a legitimate physical foundation for magnetic systems. However, looking at the experience of our predecessors, we clearly understand the primary obstacle that kept them from realizing and scaling their projects. We are confident that in order to overcome the status quo in the field of magnetic systems, it is essential to fundamentally rethink the core values of its implementation, prematurely eliminating commercial secrecy and the resulting opportunities for project manipulation, including among internal participants. Open-source flagships like Linux and RepRap have already proven that open source breeds billion-dollar ecosystems. The revenue comes from tech support, certification, component supply, and finished products. The open source playbook drives market growth at a massive pace. The product scales instantly because adoption is no longer limited by the capacity of a single company. Added value is now driven by engineering excellence, not technological secrecy. The VIS Magnetica project aims to build a functional generator based on open-source principles, resulting in an open-access database of blueprints and DIY manufacturing guides, distributed production of plug-and-play assembly kit sets, local assembly teams delivering ready-to-use turnkey generators worldwide, an MLM-driven product supply and distribution network, a unified decentralized Web3 ecosystem. And yes, please hit the like button, explore our publications, and support the project via the donation links in the description.